नमस्ते, मेरा नाम है डॉक्टर दीपानेता और आपका स्वागत है अराउंड द वर्ल्ड लास्ट वीक के सीरीज में। इस एपिसोड में एज यूजुअल हम जो भी लास्ट वीक में जियोपॉलिटिकल इवेंट्स हुई थी उसको हम कवर करने वाले हैं। और आप सभी को पता ही है कि लास्ट वीक का जो डोमिनेटिंग न्यूज़ था या जो न्यूज़ हेडलाइंस था वो था इजराइल और ईरान के बीच में वॉर। अब ये एक डेवलपिंग स्टोरी है, तो कुछ पहलू जो कि बेस है, फाउंडेशन है, उसको समझेंगे। बट एक ओवर आर्चिंग अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए आई विल गो फॉर अ सेपरेट वीडियो जहाँ पे मैं इस पर ज़्यादा आई कैन स्पेंड सम टाइम एंड टॉक अबाउट डिफरेंट फैसेट्स, जस्ट नॉट कि क्या चल रहा है और उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा, बट टू अंडरस्टैंड ये कहाँ से स्टार्ट होता है और इसमें न्यूक्लियर डेटरेंस जैसे कई जो थियोरीज हैं सो कैसे हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं। तो उसके लिए आई विल गो फॉर अ सेपरेट वीडियो। राइट नाउ आई विल जस्ट टॉक अबाउट व्हाट इज बीन गोइंग ऑन, फैक्चुअल जो है उस पर हम बात करेंगे। लाइक ऑलवेज आप मुझसे जुड़ सकते हो टेलीग्राम और इंस्टाग्राम में। ये PDF मैं अपलोड कर दूंगी अपने टेलीग्राम में। कोई भी डाउट हो प्लीज़ फील फ्री टू रीच आउट टू मी। आते हैं अब पहले न्यूज़ में जो कि इंपॉर्टेंट है GS2 के पर्सपेक्टिव से, जो है आपका UN का जो ओशंस कॉन्फ्रेंस हुआ है UNOC3 जो फ्रांस में हुआ था, co-hosted by कोस्टा रिका। 19 countries have joined the High Seas Treaty and उसमें से 30 nations ने एक मोराटोरियम को सपोर्ट किया है ऑन डीप सी माइनिंग। ये जो कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रहा था उसमें डीप सी माइनिंग पे बहुत ज़्यादा फोकस किया गया है, राइट। एंड इसी वजह से वी हैव टू टॉक अबाउट व्हाट आर द इम्प्लीकेशंस ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर कॉन्फ्रेंस एज वेल एज कुछ जो हम लोग डेवलपमेंट्स देख पा रहे हैं उसको समझना ज़रूरी है। अब फ्रेंच प्रेसिडेंट ने कहा है कि डीप सी माइनिंग इज अ मैडनेस एंड पुश्ड फॉर अ ग्लोबल मोराटोरियम। UN सेक्रेटरी जनरल एंटोनियो ग्यूटेरेस ने कहा है कि प्लंडर टू प्रोटेक्शन में हमें शिफ्ट करना चाहिए, while Prince William stressed the need to act now. This conference ended with the nice ocean action plan, which focuses on stronger marine protection, more funding, and faster ratification of global ocean agreements. काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है, स्पेशली इन द लाइट ऑफ हाई सीज ट्रीटी। अब कुछ आते हैं जो कि आप यू कैन सी दैट इट इज हैपनिंग, दी फैक्ट्स पे आते हैं, इम्प्लीकेशंस पे थोड़े इसके बाद आते हैं, बट लेट्स कम डाउन टू फैक्ट्स राइट नाउ। द फर्स्ट UN ओशन कॉन्फ्रेंस 2017 न्यूयॉर्क में हुआ था, फोकस्ड ऑन एडवांसिंग SDG 14 एंड मरीन पोल्यूशन। सो SDG 14 एंड मरीन पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल पे हुआ था फर्स्ट UN कॉन्फ्रेंस। सेकेंड वाला दैट इज इन 2022 लिस्बन में, इट एम्फसाइज्ड ऑन सस्टेनेबल ओशन इकोनॉमीज एंड प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन। ठीक है, दोनों में प्रॉब्लम क्या था? इट लैक्ड अ बाइंडिंग कमिटमेंट। अब आ जाते हैं थर्ड में। थर्ड में क्या बात हुई है? डीप सी माइनिंग को लेके। अब हाई सीज ट्रीटी जो कि बहुत बड़ा डेवलपमेंट है, जो कि 2023 में हुआ था, it was adopted under the UN Convention on the Law of Sea, UNCLOS से कहा जाता है, and addresses marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. It introduces provisions for marine protected areas, environmental impact assessments, and fair access to marine resources. The treaty represents a step towards formalizing governance mechanisms for ocean spaces beyond national control, जिसे हम global commons भी कहते हैं। So if the question is using the word global commons, you should know that we're talking about areas beyond national jurisdiction, which is basically high seas, outer space, atmosphere and the Antarctica. In this high seas treaty जो कि आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा न्यूज़ में है, उस पर फोकस करना है क्योंकि वो करंट अफेयर्स का पार्ट है। Now high seas treaty को इंडिया ने रेटिफाई कर दिया है, and because it is talking about protecting the marine as well as stopping plunder, काफ़ी important है, काफ़ी relevant है for the UNOC। आते हैं second point पे, the soaring focus on deep sea mining. So deep sea mining has become the new buzzword. ठीक है, जैसे कि रेयर अर्थ है, जैसे डीप सी माइनिंग आ रहा है, राइट। सो यू विल सी लॉट ऑफ दिस रेयर अर्थ मिनरल्स की बात हो रही है। यूक्रेन US के बीच में मिनरल डील हो रहा है, US चाइना के बीच में रेयर अर्थ मिनरल डील हो रहा है। ऑल ऑफ दीज वर्ड्स आर द बज़वर्ड। साथ में डीप सी माइनिंग, कंटिन्यूअसली यू विल गो टू हियर दिस वर्ड, तो इसको समझना जरूरी है क्यों फोकस किया जा रहा है। Deep sea mining has come under increased global scrutiny due to concerns over irreversible ecological impact and the absence of comprehensive regulation. With increasing demand for rare earth minerals, The interest of mining firms have also grown. However, many countries and environmental groups stress the need for caution. This reflected mounting international debate over balancing resource extraction with long-term ओशन कंजर्वेशन एंड लीगल सेफगार्ड्स. तो एक तरफ आपका रिसोर्स एक्सट्रैक्शन है, दूसरी तरफ आपका ओशन कंजर्वेशन है. इन दोनों के बीच में जो डिबेट चल रहा है उसी के लिए डीप सी माइनिंग पे इतना फोकस है. थर्ड है फ्रांस का रोल. France's role in ocean governance. France holds a key position in ocean governance with overseas territories across all major oceans as the world's second largest exclusive economic zone. Second largest है. So in Indian Ocean, which is the territory that which is the territory that France have, नीचे कमेंट में जरूर लिखना कि कहाँ पे है फ्रांस का होल्ड इन द इंडियन ओशन. It has been active in promoting marine biodiversity protection, sustainable ocean use and global climate commitments. France supports the High Seas Treaty and has called out for a moratorium on deep sea mining. ठीक है. Next, if we go on, implications पे आते हैं. 3 implications पे focus करेंगे. First, the implications of the conference on deep sea mining and ocean governance. Deep sea mining raises serious risks for ocean ecosystems, yet interest is growing due to demand for rare minerals. There is a chance now to rethink ocean governance by focusing on global cooperation. ये keyword है, ocean governance. So when you're making your notes, ocean governance पे ज़्यादा आपको focus करना है, right? This keyword is continuously coming in the media. छूट जाएगा अगर आप अभी notes नहीं बना रहे हो कि what is ocean governance and what is High Seas Treaty, what is deep sea mining, where is France coming into the picture, what is India's position. All of this has to be marked, right? By focusing on global cooperation, stronger science-based rules and long-term environmental monitoring, indigenous knowledge and ocean data sharing is expected to play a bigger role. Nevertheless, current laws are unclear and the International Seabed Authority lacks strict rules. Many countries still prioritize profit over protection. If these gaps aren't addressed, deep sea mining could go ahead with proper safeguards. Without proper safeguards, causing damage we may not be able to reverse. Second, France's maritime ambition and climate leadership. France is actively using ocean governance as a tool of foreign diplomacy to expand its global influence. It's positioned itself as a natural leader on marine issues. Hosting the UNOC3, which is leading support to the High Seas Treaty and calling for a deep sea mining moratorium, are part of its effort to gain soft power in global environmental negotiations. By championing ocean protection, France strengthens its ties with coastal and island nations, enhances its climate credentials, and builds moral leadership that supports its broader geopolitical and diplomatic interest. Geopolitical, we already know. Last week only we discussed how France is visiting several ASEAN countries, is engaging how it can actively participate in the Indo-Pacific. So France is really stepping up on its marine game. Third, US reluctance in joining the multilateral treaties on oceans. The US not joining major ocean treaties like the UNCLOS and the High Seas Treaty creates a big gap in global ocean affairs. As a powerful country with strong science and navy, its full support is important. So US जहाँ पे vacuum छोड़ रहा है, वहाँ पे China and other countries are stepping in. इस particular चीज़ में France wants to step in. So France is not only hosting it, but is also talking about High Seas Treaty and is engaging bilaterally as well. ये चीज़ नहीं बोलना है. Multilateralism का example है, but bilateral वाला चीज़ को भी लिखना पड़ेगा अगर फ्रांस का question आया तो. Otherwise, you should know what is ocean governance, you should know deep sea mining. Moving on, US-China, right? तो US-China में जो चीज़ हम देख रहे थे कि एक दूसरे पे टैरिफ लगा के टैरिफ वॉर कर रहे हैं, सडनली एक टैरिफ डील आ जाता है, राइट? अभी तक दोनों कंट्रीज ने साइन नहीं किया है, तो इसके डील के बारे में इतना हमें पता नहीं है. बट व्हाट वी नो इज दैट दो हाई लेवल डेलीगेशंस मेट इन लंदन. 2 दिन के बाद बोथ कंट्रीज अग्रीड ऑन अ फ्रेमवर्क टू रिजॉल्व ट्रेड टेंशंस, lifting mineral export controls and to follow through with the Geneva Truce on de-escalating tariff tensions. Trump noted that they will work to open up China to American trade, as he claimed that a consensus was reached to impose 55% tariff on China for 10%. अभी तक clarity आई नहीं है क्योंकि साइन हुआ नहीं है, and we really cannot trust or believe what Trump is writing in the social media. China's Ministry of Commerce informed that they have also approved export licenses for rare earth to the US after the meeting. He Lifeng said China approaches these consultations with both sincerity and principle. The details of the framework are yet to be released. आते हैं 3 चीजों पे जो इंपॉर्टेंट है. एक है टाइमलाइन. फर्स्ट क्या हुआ था टाइमलाइन की अगर हम बात करें तो सबसे पहले मार्च में ट्रंप एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने 20% टैरिफ दिया था चाइनीज इंपोर्ट्स पे. उसके बाद 34% डाल दिया गया था यूएस के रेसिप्रोकल टैरिफ्स के अंडर. चाइना ने एक्सपोर्ट्स कर्व कर दिया रेयर अर्थ मिनरल्स टू द यूएस while imposing a 10% tariff. अप्रैल में ट्रंप ने 50% टैरिफ लगा दिया, bringing the total to 104% in total. China retaliated with 84% tariff, to which the US responded with a 145% tariff. China imposed its final tariff of 125, urging the US to stop its unilateral bullying. उसके बाद 90-day का halt announce किया गया by the Trump administration, after which they agreed to meet in Geneva. जिनीवा में एक जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट रिलीज किया गया था जहां पे यूएस अग्रीड टू मॉडिफाई द एड वैलोरम ड्यूटी फॉर चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट्स, ब्रिंगिंग द सजेस्टेड टैरिफ्स इम्पोज्ड बाय द यूएस टू 30% एंड चाइना अग्रीड टू रिड्यूस इट्स टैरिफ्स टू 10%. उसके अलावा दे ऑल्सो टॉक्ड अबाउट एस्टैब्लिशिंग ट्रेड एंड इकोनॉमिक कंसल्टेशन. ये जिनीवा का डिक्लेरेशन के अंडर पे हुआ था टॉक्स के. अब लंदन में दे हैव कम टू दिस रेयर अर्थ डील. सेकेंड, अगर ट्रेड की बात करें तो चाइना एंड यूएस का जो ट्रेड है it has steadily increased from 2.5 billion USD in 1979 to about 688.3 billion in 2024. And US का deficit to China is the largest compared to its other trading partners. We already know these facts because जब tariff war हो रहा था तो बार बार यही retaliate किया जा रहा था कि किस तरीके से China has an upper hand in its trade with US. Third आते हैं China's monopoly of rare earth and the US. China mines 70% of the world's rare earth and is responsible for 90% of the processing. They are fundamental to producing EVs, electronics, and critical tech production. In April, China announced its rare earth export control measures aimed at safeguarding national security. Since then, firms are required to submit applications to buy rare earth from China, which after review, the licensed exporters are allowed. But April के बाद US पे पूरी तरीके से रोक दिया गया था. And the last thing, of course, Trump's crackdown on Chinese students. Trump administration announced that it will aggressively revoke Chinese students' visa application, citing a national security threat. So tensions have been going on. Of course, apart from tariff, there have been other issues as well. But most important, if we talk about it, this deal of rare earth. Now, this is going to be a major game changer coming in the few months ahead. अगर जहाँ पे एक लेवल पे फिर से डिपेंडेंस क्रिएट हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन, बिकॉज ऑफ ट्रेड रिलायंस, एंड दिस इज अगेन गोइंग टू बी अ बैलेंस और अ चेक टू द कोल्ड वॉर गोइंग ऑन इन अदर फ्रंट्स, especially with so many conflicts going on and an axis coming in, which is far more realistic, right? Far more power driven. On the other hand, you have the liberal forces of globalization creating this kind of a cooperation between the two competitors. Interesting times. आते हैं नेक्स्ट न्यूज पे, विच इज अबाउट चाइनीज प्रेसिडेंट जी एंड म्यांमार के जो मिलिट्री हुंता है उनके बीच में आपस में मीटिंग हुई थी on the 75th anniversary of diplomatic cooperation. Now, of course, what is important or what you should take away from this meeting is that Myanmar is still in the civil war, right? It is amidst the civil war, jahan pe military is losing ground steadily and the Three Brotherhood Alliance is gaining the territory, especially in the Shan region and so on. Now, in this light, China has already stepped in with its mediation and has stopped the active war जिसे देखा जा रहा था. अब China is meeting the military junta and exchanging pleasantries basically means that China is, kind of coming in, stepping in, legitimizing the military, having talks with the non-state actor and trying to, break down the tension so that the work, the projects can take off. China-Myanmar economic corridor has to take off. Otherwise, China's backup plan to the blockade or to the Strait of Malacca dilemma is going to be in soup. So China is going to steadily and politically engage with both the partners and try to reduce the tension so that CMEC can take off. And this is just one part of it. If you take a look at the line, the dialogue दिया गया है, So Xi ने क्या कहा है कि भाई it's Pokpao, which is a fraternal friendship which has withstood the test of time. Apart from that, 5 principles of peaceful coexistence पे बात की गई है, and willingness to work with Myanmar to accelerate, right, keyword, to accelerate high quality BRI cooperation, jointly implementing global development initiative, global security initiative and the global civilization initiative. ये तीनों initiative चाइना के हैं. China wants to through these initiatives basically have its soft power across the world, and this is where Myanmar has been, into the debt trap. Obviously, forget the debt trap, it is in a trap of all sorts. So that is where you'll see China trying to kind of stabilize situation ताकि CMEC can kickstart. Next, if we come to it, Singapore signs 3 new energy deals with Indonesia, deepening the partnership, right? Why is this important? So any kind of a bilateral deal between the ASEAN members signals that ASEAN is becoming stronger as well, right? Because बहुत सारे news में या understanding में दिखता है कि ASEAN में splinters आने लगे हैं, some who support China and some who don't. In this entire splintering, when you start seeing countries having bilateral deals, especially in energy, science, technology, you do start seeing that ASEAN is moving beyond trade. ASEAN is strengthening bilaterally, and that is very important for ASEAN to survive, ASEAN to continue to be relevant, and that is what we see in this particular news. नेक्स्ट बांग्लादेश का रिपोर्ट है एक यूएन पॉपुलेशन फंड का, जहां पे रिपोर्ट था द रियल फर्टिलिटी क्राइसिस. It states that 51% of Bangladeshi girls were married before turning 18 between 2006 to 2024, which indicates the crisis, the social crisis that is going on in Bangladesh. We all know about the political crisis, but the social crisis is something that we have to understand, because the social crisis will have an impact on the economy as well as on the politics. Right? Now, if you have conservative forces coming back to power, you're going to see a much worse numbers in the coming decade. Let's move on to the next news. Mohammad Yunus receives the Harmony Award from King Charles III. ये award किस लिए दिया जाता है? For achievements in sustainable development and humanitarian causes. Interesting. The man who has not been able to make any change or reform in Bangladesh since he has taken up power. Elections have been delayed, and yes, he has been given the Harmony Award. So you can, very well put that jigsaw puzzle ka piece and say कि क्यों दिया जा रहा है, right? Why does UK so interested in Mohammad Yunus, and what is it that they have an agenda out here? Okay, moving on. Pakistan budget. Now you will be asking कि ये पाकिस्तान बजट भी पढ़ना पड़ता है क्या? My point is नहीं पढ़ना पड़ता है, but कुछ चीजें जो आपको यहाँ से पिकअप करना है. फर्स्ट जो चीज इंपॉर्टेंट है, इन्वेस्टमेंट इन एग्रीकल्चर एंड रिलीफ फॉर आर्म्ड फोर्सेस. तो ये जो है इन्वेस्टमेंट इन एग्रीकल्चर ऑलरेडी इंडस वाटर ट्रीटी के वजह से जब सस्पेंड हो चुका है, पानी है नहीं. जब पानी नहीं है तो एग्रीकल्चर इंपैक्ट कर चुका है. मॉनसून्स आई नहीं है, अभी भी 1-2 हफ्ता पेंडिंग है. पंजाब सिंध में फूड सिक्योरिटी क्राइसिस शुरू हो चुका है, जिसके वजह से यू आर सीइंग फार्मर्स स्ट्रगलिंग. इसी दौरान आपके बजट में ये बोला जाने कि भाई एक सस्टेन्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट किया जाएगा इन क्रॉप प्रोडक्टिविटी, लाइफ स्टॉक डेवलपमेंट एंड एग्रीकल्चरल मॉडर्नाइजेशन, विच बेसिकली इज लाइक दैट कैरेट व्हेन द स्टिक इज देयर. इट इज ट्राइंग टू पैसिफाई पीपल कि नहीं, आपकी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट कुछ कर रही है, जबकि इन सब चीज़ों से कुछ नहीं होगा अगर पानी नहीं आएगा. बहुत ही बेसिक सा फंडा है. You cannot grow crops in air. You cannot grow crops in dry soil. You need water. And unless the Indus water starts flowing in, the water volume doesn't, is not constant, it's going to be difficult. Monsoons bhi aa gaya, to uske baad it's going to be difficult. So at this point of time, it is just to pacify the people ki bhai, the government is thinking about you. We are giving you the Punjab Kisan card, which is going to benefit farmers. It is basically कि भाई आपको फाइनेंस किया जाएगा एग्रीकल्चरली, because the state is in a crisis zone, because it is under pressure, especially in the agriculture sector. The next news which is related to the budget is the economic survey which was presented by the finance minister. Now According to him, Pakistan should register a growth rate of 2.7% in the financial year 2024-25, which is still short of the desired 3.56% growth. Now, 2.7% still hard to gain, especially at a time when agriculture is suffering, especially at a time it is completely dependent on loans, especially at a time which has just seen a crisis just happened. Iske wajah se even 2.7 would be difficult, but of course, just a prediction that has been given. In the previous financial year, the numbers stood at 2.5%, and it is said that ye badhne wala hai to 2.7. Apart from this, the finance minister has said that the following year would be a turnaround story. He also pointed out that the economic performance must not be critiqued without taking account of the global economic growth. Apart from that, the finance minister also hinted of India's alleged malintentions to disrupt Pakistan's economic growth. He alleged that the executive director of the IMF, who happens to be of Indian origin, tried to cause obstacles in Pakistan receiving the second tranche of extended fund facility. Imagine, during the war, they got the IMF loan. Now they are saying that IMF may, because it is being led by an Indian, it's all, there are so many troubles and turmoil for Pakistan to get loan. Okay, next, Bilawal Bhutto. Now, two important news about him. So he has basically, he's in an outreach program visiting various countries. And he has said that India is hindering Trump's mediation effort. Today itself, our Prime Minister said that India will not accept any third-party mediation. And in this light, Bilawal Bhutto is saying that India nahi Trump ke mediation efforts ko roka hai. The point is, we will not accept any third-party intervention, and we do not need a mediation. If we need to talk, we will do it through our diplomatic channels. There should not be any pressure on India to mediate, especially with a country which sponsors terrorism against India. We have been very clear with our policy, but of course, Bilawal Bhutto keeps talking about this. He said that Donald Trump really tried, but India did not listen to it, and he said that the terrorist attack in Pahalgam is all lies and propaganda. And he has further put allegations against India, said that the intelligence agencies had a hand in eliminating Sikh activists in other countries. So basically, he is talking about how India is doing all illegal activities while Pakistan is all legal in the global politics. Now, next, if we talk about him himself, Bilawal Bhutto also voices concerns on the possibility of the first nuclear warfare amidst the abeyance of the Indus Water Treaty. So he has now come across with this understanding that if India continues to suspend Indus Water Treaty, there will be a nuclear water warfare. Nuclear water warfare is something that has never been talked about or has never been actually discussed, because we know about nuclear warfare. We can talk about nuclear warfare because of water, but a nuclear water warfare, I'll give the credit to him for coining this. Apart from that, he says it's going to be the first time there will be a nuclear warfare because of water. So you can very well understand that Pakistan is feeling the pinch of suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. जाके कहीं पे जाके बोलना कि भाई हम लोग nuclear warfare कर देंगे because of water basically indicates that you are feeling the pinch and you are thinking of no other alternative but nuclear. Now, this of course would not be tolerated by any means right now, because we are still living in a realist world where security is of primary importance. Now, if security is compromised, then yes, nuclear warfare can be threatened. But a non-traditional security like food security, water security, they are not taken so seriously yet. And to say that non-traditional security threat is being compromised, that's why we are going for a nuclear warfare, would of course not be taken seriously. So again, he has alleged, he is talking about it, we'll listen to it and we'll talk about it, but more than that, I don't think. Let's come to the next news, which is about China removes tariffs on African exports to increase trade. So last class mein we talked about how US has banned travel from few countries in Africa, in which African Union has said that it's going to affect US and Africa relations. Amidst all of this, China starts visa-free entry for many countries. Now China is saying that we are going to remove tariffs on African exports so that trade can be increased. बेसिकली यूएस वैक्यूम क्रिएट कर रहा है, छोड़ रहा है, एंड वहां पे चाइना स्टेप इन कर रहा है. एंड अफ्रीका एंड लैटिन अमेरिका, टू एरियाज दैट चाइना इज really making inroads into. And if this happens, if China removes the tariffs, that means China's inroads in Africa would be dominating. And India would be, kind of struggling to make its inroads out there, because we cannot afford to remove tariffs the way China does. And this is going to be again where China is going to start influencing. Trade will not happen in vacuum. Trade happens with soft power. Trade happens with influence. And China's influence is going to increase in Africa. Okay, let's move on to Hong Kong hosting the Convention on the Establishment of International Organization for Mediation. So on 30th May, China and 32 other countries signed the Convention on the Establishment of the International Organization for Mediation in Hong Kong. The new international body is expected to act as a body for dispute resolution. You have to mark the words because it's interesting news. As a body for dispute resolution. The event was attended by representatives from 85 countries and 20 international organizations. It hopes that the organization might be on par with the International Court of Justice and the Permanent Court of Arbitration. So basically, China in Hong Kong, and we all know that Hong Kong is controlled by China, it is Chinese territory, is basically saying, we are not going with ICJ. We are not going to listen to Permanent Court of Arbitration. We will have our own international organization for mediation. Why? ICJ does not have teeth. UN has lost its relevance. PCA, Permanent Court of Arbitration, is again in the hands of the Western countries. Let's have our own mediation organization, which, of course, China is going to start and China is going to control. Now, what is the entire argument being put across? The mediation body aims to cement Hong Kong's presence, aka China's presence, as a top center to resolve disputes between countries, said Hong Kong Special Administrative Region's chief executive. China's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Wang Yi, stated that the cases handled would include disputes between countries, a country and nationals of other country, and private international entities. So basically, he has already given the sphere of jurisdiction that this particular organization will be mediating into. He added that the establishment of the IOM ED is an epitome of inclusiveness in the culture of the rule of law. It incorporates the very best of major legal systems, respects the wishes of parties concerned, and draws upon the strengths of being more flexible, cost-effective, convenient, and efficient. So basically, China is now starting off with mediation as well. Now it would be, something that we have to observe if a major conflict can be mediated in this particular organization. And if that happens, then that means the ICJ has gone for a toss, and that will maybe be the last of the UN. Because till now, the relevance of UN has been into the resolutions and ICJ. But now if IOM ED kind of takes over, ICJ will completely lose its relevance. Let's come down to the last but one news, which is about a UNGA resolution on Israel and stopping its actions in Gaza. Interesting. About 149 countries backed this resolution. US did not, obviously, but India abstained. So 19 countries abstained, including India. US describes this entire Israel's attack on Gaza as a reward for Hamas, says it does nothing to relieve the suffering of Gazans or secure release of hostages, and undermines negotiation. The US has basically criticized this particular resolution, and US has said that this is not going to lead to anything. But again, a large number of countries, like 149 UN countries, have supported this resolution. Now, can this resolution really lead to peace? No. But it does indicate what the international feeling or sentiment is. And to go against that basically means you're losing your legitimacy and authority in the world sphere. If you are not bothered with it, like Israel is not, well and good enough. Why is Israel not bothered? Because you have the hegemon with you. But it also means that it's going to take time for Israel to again get back to a standing wherein it can start having its own bilateral relations. Most countries will try to avoid this. Most countries will keep a one hand distance from Israel because of the lack of support it is going to get from the international sphere. But now things are, of course, at a point that Israel wants to just once and for all end all its enemies. And that brings me to the last news, which is Israel-Iran. So what really happened? I'll just go over the facts. I'll not go over the implications, and I'm not going to go over where it starts and how it starts and everything. Just let's go over the facts. What we know. We know that Israel over the last year had completely targeted all the proxies of Iran, which is Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Once all the three were targeted, there was an attack, there was a Mossad attack, and it did kill some of the leadership of these proxies. Soon after, there was Donald Trump came to power, and the conversations shifted to Iran's nuclear program. And IAEA came up with a report saying that Iran is quickly enriching its uranium and it is about to be weapon grade, and if nothing is being done about it, Iran is going to have nuclear weapons. In this light, US starts putting pressure on Iran to have talks, nuclear talks. The first proposal was given by the US in Oman, which Iran rejected and said that this proposal is not even suitable for any kind of a conversation, and they gave a counter proposal. The idea was that they would need assurance that sanctions would no longer be applied on Iran, and of course the enrichment would be done for civilian purpose. However, amidst all of this, Israel started off saying that if Iran becomes nuclear and it is buying time with these conversations and it's about to produce weapon, it's going to target Israel, and thereby Israel did a preemptive strike. Now, in that preemptive strike, it has hit a lot of important places in Iran, especially a nuclear facility, as well as the headquarters, defense headquarters, and many other places, and which is Iran retaliated by, again, attacking through drones and other missiles, and it has been falling all over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. What is the reaction of US at this point of time? Donald Trump has said, let them first fight it out and then we'll come to talks. Today, he has released a statement saying that enough is enough. Iran now should come to talks. So it is very clear that US really wants Israel to keep bombarding Iran to a point that they have no other option but to come to the table and sign a deal in which they will agree not to become nuclear. Now, what has been surprising is the absence of Russia as well as China in this entire thing. We all know that Russia and China have been supporting Iran, but they have been quiet. Instead, it is US who has come up and said that Russia is also in support of a nuclear talk between Iran and US. Now, what is going to happen? Of course, the developing story, one cannot predict it. But my understanding is that Iran will be forced to come to a table to sign a ceasefire, because the way Iran is being bombarded, and if there is that, bigger weapons being used, especially bunker blast bombs that are being used, it's going to be very difficult for Iran. And in light of, domestic pressure also on the Ayatollah, it is becoming really urgent for Iranian politics to come to the table on the nuclear front. But would it sign the deal immediately? I don't see that happening, because they are going to buy time, and that is again very crucial. Iran knows it is right now at a zone which is not being supported. None of the countries are coming ahead and supporting it. Everybody is hushed out on it. So it is going to buy time. And Trump has to accept that he is dealing with a very seasoned diplomat or a seasoned leader. He's not dealing with a new leader. He's, somebody who has been in power. He's going to deal with Ayatollah. And that is going to require a lot of diplomacy. So it is, of course, a developing story. As I said, what is going to happen? We're going to keep observing. But will it come to an end soon? I don't see it unless Iran comes to the table. And Israel is very clear that they really do not want another nuclear country in the region. That is something that they have put a red light on, and they are ready to take it to the war. With this, let me come to an end to today's episode. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye.